Hey, this is 2006 660 Rhino. Used to have a fuel pump like this on it. I've removed it. The reason for that is every time it started getting hot, the fuel line or fuel pump would vaporize. About 5 or 6 years ago, I installed this low flow fuel pump, had it installed back here below the other pump, and had that to bring the gas up to the pump and push it through the vapor lock. Was having issues with it still vapor locking, but the electric fuel pump was able to get me started quicker without having to pour water on the old fuel pump to cool it down. So I decided to make this fuel pump full-time and see how it would work. I did a lot of trial and error, and there's no video showing how many mistakes I made. But I made quite a few. But I eventually got it going, and I had a tough time finding this small enough filter to fit underneath the seat right here. So I bought 4 of them, so I have backup in case a fuel pump or fuel filter should plug when I'm up in the forest. It flows from here down to here. I put in a 3-way. There's a 3-way on the stock version. Get my fingers on it. This is it here, if you can see it. I removed that, but I'm going to keep it in the glove box. I'll also be keeping this in the glove box, the old fuel pump, for the simple reason that I know that if it's electronic, it's going to fail at some point. And I'd just as soon be able to get home out of the bush should it fail on me. I don't know where most people ride, but we go 30, 40 kilometers into the forest. I very seldom go by myself when I go that deep. In fact, I never do. But I do go deep into the forest to set up trail cameras, and I go by myself. So if the electric fuel pump dies on me, I have my backup. We also have had a situation with the fuel tank. A friend of mine was riding with me and put the fuel in and didn't put the cap on. It filled with mud and water. We eventually had to run the fuel out of a gas can and do a siphon. I'll include a picture of that in this video. You can see what happened there. Now, down here, if you can see it, is where I established the relay for the fuel pump, and I fed it underneath a tunnel. Now, when I was faced with having to remove the tunnel to run the wires out to the front so I could hook it up to the ignition, I'm old, fat, and lazy, so what I did was I used a metal fish, pushed it through the tunnel, and got the wire in that way. Now you should know that the first filter I bought like this was too small. I couldn't get the machine to start. So I reinstalled the old filter, this one, and the pump is self-priming, pumped it up, and it fired up. Now today, it hasn't run since last night. And I came out, installed the new filter, turned the key, and you could hear the pump sucking up the gas, and then it fired without using the choke. I'll give you a demonstration. no choke. Any of you guys driving 660s with a normal vacuum carburetor will know that that doesn't happen. This is a vacuum line. I shortened it and threaded a bolt in there to plug off the vacuum. So I'm going to button this thing up. I'm going to close this video off. I'll button this up, put the seats in, and take it out for the first drive with the electric fuel pump. And I'll have the GoPro going, so we'll see what happens. One thing that I neglected to emphasize is the bypass. You've got to have a bypass on it. I mentioned it, but I didn't stress it. If you don't have a bypass, you're going to have all kinds of problems. The other thing I did was I included quite a bit more hose rather than skimping on it, so that if I have a problem out in the forest, I have lots of hose to deal with. And over underneath the driver's seat, I have another coil of hose. That's just from experience. I always take enough to make sure that I'm going to get home.